A very good evening to our viewers and welcome to News Express on Global Television live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Judith Peters. We have a breaking news right now. The President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has assigned some portfolios to minister. As follows, their names are Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, Minister of Women Affairs, Uju Kennedy. We'll bring you more stories on this in our subsequent bulletin. ECOWAS expressed worry over the killings of soldiers in Niger, while it expressed sympathy for the victims' families. 17 Niger soldiers were killed on Tuesday in an attack by suspected jihadists near the country's western border with Mali. The Defense Ministry said the Economic Community of West African States has condemned the killings of Nigerian soldiers by armed groups. An army detachment was the victim of a terrorist ambush near the town of Kataugu. It added that 20 soldiers had been wounded seriously, with all the casualties evacuated to the capital, Niamey. Also, the former First Lady, Dame Patience Jonathan, has pledged to support Senator Oluremi Tinubu, wife of the President, to move the country forward. Calling on other women to follow suit, Mrs. Jonathan gave the assurance on Wednesday during the solidarity visits to the First Lady at the Presidential Villa, Abuja. She thanked the First Lady for how she has impacted the lives of Nigerian women. She said it was imperative for her as a former President's wife to also support and encourage Mrs. Tinubu on things that would move the nation forward. Jonathan commended women groups for their support for President Bola Tinubu and his wife and pleaded that they maintain their support for the government to sustain the patriotic efforts. Also, the federal government will on Thursday arraign the suspended Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, and as his associate for 6.9 billion naira procurement fraud at the Federal Capital Territory High Court, Maitama, Abuja. Emefiele will be arraigned alongside a female CBN employee, Saidat Yaro, and accompanying April 1616 Investments Limited on 20 charges of procurement fraud, conspiracy, and conferring corrupt advantages on his associate. Emefiele, who had been in detention since he was suspended from office on June 9th by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was accused of conferring corrupt advantages on Yaro, a director in April 1616 Investments Limited. The offense is contrary to Section 19 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. If convicted, Emefiele may be sentenced to 5 years imprisonment without an option of a fine. The suspended governor was also accused of awarding a contract for the supply of another Toyota Land Cruiser V8 for 77.50 million naira to the third defendant in 2018. And now the federal government has insisted that no federal university is allowed to charge tuition fees in the country. The Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, David Adejo, said this at a public hearing by the House of Representatives The HOC Committee on Student Loans in Abuja on Tuesday. Adejo said that the recent increase in charges by federal university in the country was unfortunate. Adejo said that the charges collected by institutions were used to pay for some of their services, including electricity bills. He faulted claims that the signing of the Student Loan Act was responsible for some of the hike in the university charges. Adejo said that despite the charges, the university had not been able to meet up with some of their expenses. He said that the modality had been put in place for the takeoff of the student loan scheme in the 2023/2024 academic calendar. The Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCT, has said that it has concluded plans to demolish over 500 illegal structures at Duse Garki in the Akpo district of the FCT. The Director of Department of Development Control in FCTA, Mukhtar Galadima would disclose this after a dialogue meeting with Dosen Garki natives on Wednesday. Said most individuals acquired lands from the natives without approval from the FCT administration, which according to him was an unacceptable practice. Galadima, who spoke through the Deputy Director of Monitoring and Enforcement, Hassan Ogbole, said the administration would not spare any land or structure without approval from the constituted authorities. The city is grappling with individuals acquiring lands from natives without FCT administration approval. It is unacceptable to the government and this must not continue, was what he said. Vice President Kashim Shettima has assured the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, IITA, a federal government partnership towards ensuring food security in the country. Shettima gave the assurance when he received in audience the IITA delegation led by its Director General and Regional Director for African, Simeon Ehu, at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. He said that President Tinubu's administration would give all the necessary support and assistance to ensure food security and enhance agricultural practice that can produce enough food for the citizenry. He commended the IITA team for the many successes recorded in the agricultural sector in the West African region. Shettima also praised IITA for doing well in the production of certain agricultural produce such as cassava, yam, soya beans, and also the VP, who stated further that IITA has an iconic presence in Ibadan and West African, assured that the country must maximize the benefits which the institution can bring to bear on the agricultural sector in the country. Borno State Governor Babangana Zulum has distributed food and other palliatives to 2,000 residents of Fizan Ward in Maiduguri Metropolitan Council. The MMC distribution took place on Wednesday at the Mohammed Goni College of Legal and Islamic Students as part of ongoing efforts to reduce hardship caused by rising costs of living as a result of the withdrawal of fuel subsidy by the federal government. Zulum in July launched the distribution of palliatives, which targeted over 300,000 households with about 6 persons per household to reach 1.8 million persons in need. Under the program, each eligible resident in Fizuri received a palliative voucher that entitled them to get food items in order to reduce the hardship due to the rising prices of commodities. At the latest distribution in Fizuri, the 2,000 households comprises 1,000 heads of male households and 1,000 heads of female households. Each received 1 bag of rice and a bag of beans. To ensure transparency and accountability in the selection process, Borno State government engaged the civil society to be part of the palliative distribution committee. And also, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, FCT, command said it intercepted about 3,903 kilograms of suspected illicit drug with a monitoring value of over 56.9 million between January to date. Mr. Kabir Zakua, FCT commandant of the agency, disclosed this in an interview with the News Agency of Nigeria on Wednesday in Abuja. Zakua said that the illicit drugs seized included suspected cannabis sativa, cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, tramadol, Rafonol, diazepam, ecstasy, and megadon. The Nigeria Youth Service Corps (NYSC) has begun orientation of 1,161 corps members at the renovated Arabic Teachers College (ATC) camp in Borno State. The exercise, slated for next Friday in Maiduguri, would hold at the 3,000 capacity camp, which has hostels as well as water and electricity supplies for the corps members. NYSC State Coordinator Mohammed Adamu stated yesterday the military, police, and other security agencies have today assured us of the security of our personnel. Orientation resource person and the corps members in this renovation camp, he noted that the resumption of the orientation was 12 years after Boko Haram began terrorism in the state. Adamu therefore allied the fears of parents and guidance over the safety of their children and wards during the 3-week orientation. He added that residents of the Maiduguri, including the Shehu of Borno, Alhaji Abubakar El-Kanamin, were overwhelmed and excited over the resumption of orientation camp in the state. The Commander General, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Ahmed Audu, has pledged to rid Niger State of criminal elements terrorizing the state lately. Audi made this pledge during the working visit to Niger State Governor Umar Bago, the CG, in a statement signed by the Corps spokesperson Babawale Afolabi on Wednesday, said the Corps will strengthen its working synergy with sister agency in the states to address the security challenges. He implored the governor also to create more office structures for the NCDC across the 26 local governments in the state. In his address, Governor Bago appreciated the timely visit of the NCDC boss. He, however, lamented the activities of the bandits, cattle rustlers, and illegal miners, among other criminalities in the state, adding that the farmers were worse hit as many abandoned their farmlands due to the fear of being attacked. And this is News Express on Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're on Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across our social media platform at Global TV NG and other handles showing on your TV screen. When the News Express return, federal government pledges support for local airlines. Details of these and more will be brought to you after this short break. Do not go nowhere. Welcome back and thank you for joining us. It's the News Prime on Global Television. Do not forget to follow us across our social media platform at Global TV NG. Back to the news. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, has called for more trade and technological relationship between Nigeria and the Republic of South Korea, especially for more in the energy and mining sector. Abbas made the call when a delegation from the South Korean Embassy to Nigeria and the 21st National Assembly of the Republic of South Korea visited him in his office in Abuja on Tuesday to seek Nigeria's support for the Asian countries World Expo 2023 hosting bid. He expressed delight over the visit and noted the long-standing relations between Nigeria and South Korea, resulting in different exchange of parliamentary programs since Nigeria's return to democracy in 1999. The speaker recalled that the Ninth House established a Nigerian-South Korea parliamentary friendship group to deepen exchange of ideas, legislative practices and procedure, as well as parliamentary exchange programs for purposes of capacity development of members and staff. He said there was a mutual understanding to initiate a treaty against double taxation on the businesses of both Nigeria and South Korea, which, though passed by the National Assembly, was not assented to by the then President of Nigeria. The 10th House of Representatives will revisit the bill on double taxation to remove obstacles militating against smooth investment in both countries. The federal government, through the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace, has promised its commitment to support Nigerian airlines. The permanent secretary of the ministry, Dr. Emmanuel Meribole, who was represented by the Director of Air Transport Management of the ministry, Hassan Ejibono, disclosed this at a reception organized by the government of Antigua and Barbuda to celebrate the commencement of direct flights between Nigeria and Caribbean country by Air Peace Airline recently. A statement signed by the ministry head of press, public relations Oluseyi Olutayo disclosed that the federal government continued to initiate and implement policies that ensure Nigerian airlines benefit from the bilateral air services agreement signed by Nigeria with other countries. The Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown, in his remarks said it was a new dawn for the relationship between Nigeria and Antigua. The Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NEITI, says Nigeria requires $20 billion annually to achieve the desired gas expansion plan to bridge the country's gas infrastructure. Dr. Orji Ogbonaya, NEITI Executive Secretary at the Policy Dialogue on Nigeria's Decade of Gas Action Plan in Monday in Abuja, said given shrinking fossil fuel investment landscape, charity was required of infrastructure to be prioritized. The dialogue was organized by the African Initiative for Transparency, Accountability and Responsible Leadership, AFRITEL, in collaboration with the Natural Resource Governance Institute, NRGI. The federal government in December 2020 rolled out the National Gas Expansion Program, NGEP, to deepen the use of natural gas and make it a preferred form of cleaner, cheaper energy for both personal and industrial use. In a remark, Orji said Nigeria had the largest gas reserves in Africa and the 9th largest globally, with gas reserve of over 200 trillion cubic feet, TCF. He recommended that the federal government should develop and publish a detailed, realistic, quoted and comprehensive gas policy with clear rules for the state and non-state actors and timelines to track periodic progress. And now on the foreign scene, Russia's FSB security service said on Wednesday it had eliminated a group of 4 Ukrainian fighters who tried to cross into Russia's western Bryansk region from northern Ukraine, Russian news agency reported. The announcement came a day after Moscow said it had prevented Ukrainian militants from infiltrating the Bryansk region, which has regularly seen similar attack. The Stardovsky district lies in the western corner of the Bryansk region, not far from the border with Moscow-allied Belarus. The FSB claimed the group had foreign weapons and explosive devices and said they were planning provocations and sabotage action on Russian territory in June. The Russian region of Belgorod saw the largest incursion since the beginning of the offensive in Ukraine. Drones and shelling were used in the assault, raising questions about the strength of Russia's border defenses. And also president of the Nigeria Football Federation, and this is on Sports News, NFF Ibrahim Gusara says the federation will put to rest the lingering contract issues of the Super Eagles and the Super Falcon coaches before their respective assignments next month. This is coming in a wake of the uncertainty over the contracts of Ois Perazzo, who handled the Eagles, and Randy Waldrum, who just led the Falcons to the round of 16 at the 2023 Women's World Cup in Australia and New Zealand. Both coaches are deemed to have seen out their respective contracts with the NFF, but Gusau on Tuesday said the NFF would make a decision on both coaches next month. Pesaroy was appointed in May 2022, both the close of qualifying and reaching the final 2023 AFCON in Ivory Coast, which will now be played in January 2024, as cast doubts on whether he will continue on the job till next year, as his contract is reported to have expired. Also, the England have spoiled 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup co-host Australia's party by booking their place in the tournament final for the first time on a historic evening in Sydney. Silencing a sellout crowd at Stadium Australia, the Lionesses became the first English side since 1966 to reach the final on the world stage. It caps a sensational 2 years under manager Sarina Wiegman as England crowned European champions for the first time last year on home soil, showed their superiority and known how to see off an Australian side spurred on by a nation which has been inspired by the Maldives sources. Ella Torres gave England the lead in the first half with a superb first-time strike, which sailed into the top corner. The Lionesses controlled proceedings until the second half, when Australia threw every at them, and star seeker Sam Kerr, starting our first match of the tournament, struck a 25-yard stunner over goalkeeper Mary Earp's head to make it 1-1. And now on Nigeria sports, the Nigeria Football Federation has opened negotiation with Ois Perazzo over a new contract as national coach. Peseiro had been on a one-year contract. Gusau's said talks were held on because of the delay in the 2023 African Cup of Nations on which the contract was based. The competition will be held in January and February. Peseiro had led Nigeria to qualification with a game to spur. Sources said the NFF wants Peseiro to accept a huge quote on his monthly $70,000 salary in a new contract that will run at least until the end of the competition in Ivory Coast. The Super Eagles round out their qualifying campaign on September 10th at a home in Uyo against Sao Tome and Principe. Gusau said the contract of Randa Wardrum, coach of the country's women's team, has also expired after he led them to the round of 16 at the Women's Cup in Australia and New Zealand. And that's it on the News Prime on Global TV. Do not forget we're on StarTimes channel 276. Kindly follow us across our social media platform at Global TV NG and order of social media handles showing on your TV screen. On behalf of the production team, I am Judith Peters. See you again in News Cycle.